cold one Tuesday. I'm looking tired and feeling quite sick. I felt like there was something missing in my day-to-day life. So I quickly opened the wardrobe, pulled out some jeans and a t-shirt that seemed clean, topped it off with a pair of old shoes that were ripped around the seams. And I thought, these shoes just don't suit me. Hey, I put some new shoes on and suddenly everything's right. I said, hey, I put some new shoes on and everybody's smiling. It's so
Hello. I want to document all of the ideas that I've had over the years for interesting and fresh and unique ways to display some of my favorite pictures. So this video is in two parts. First half, I'm going to show you some picture display ideas. And then in the second half, please stick around for that. I jumped into a freezing pool like 17 times for one demonstration. I will show you some photo taking habits and hobbies, like little photo series and projects that add more playfulness and artistry to the practice of taking pictures. So if you're gonna be filling up your camera roll with 99,650 photos, you might as well try to make some of them really cool, and you might as well honor the very best of those photos with a physical form that befits the special memory that they're helping you preserve.
excuse, 'cause I'm wearing my brand new shoes.
Number one is this pop-up photo album. This is a way to make a photo album that is honestly a feat of civil engineering. Creating this wedding album was more work than planning the wedding itself. It took me about 9 months to map out and execute. So I came across these creators on YouTube who do this like Olympic level scrapbooking. And watching their videos, I actually thought that I was looking at CGI at first. Like, I could not believe that paper and glue alone could create these kinds of effects. So I set off on this journey, selecting the photos from our trips to Puerto Rico, all our projects leading up to the wedding, our welcome event, and then the gorgeous photography of Camille fonts from our actual wedding day. And I just used like free USPS boxes to create the shell of the album, and then construction paper and glue to make the scaffolding upon which I stuck the photos. And it was so much fun to use this medium as a way to set the tone and have each page mirror or enhance the vibe of the photos. There are some photos that I wanted to give a lot of drama and protagonism to, and then there were some which were kind of fleeting moments, but they were really special. So I have them here like flipping by really fast. And then here's one where like our moms are talking and my ubiquitous husband, Jaime, pops up out of the blue. And like these are photos where we're hugging the folks who gave these super lovely speeches, and I wanted the page itself to feel like a hug. And this final page over here opens up to this huge display to feel like a grand finale that was like the dancing at the end of the wedding. I think this idea could work really beautifully, not just for a wedding album. I think it could make for a really cute graduation album where like each of the pages holds all of the most salient photos from each year of school. Or like if you love to document your vacations, you could just create this scaffolding, make it really wide, and then every time you go on holiday, you just add another page and you choose your animations based on the vibe of that vacation. Also, this doesn't even have to be in the form of an album. In fact, an idea recently came to me in a feverish vision to create this sort of like huge animated diary. So my plan is to figure out how to blow up this idea here to maybe like 30 inches in diameter, and then have each tab be a light corkboard. So there'll be 12 tabs, one for each month of the year. And then each month will like tack on memories from that month as the days go by. So like ticket stubs and Polaroids, the dog's whiskers as she drops them. And then over the years, we'll have this like arrangement on the wall of circular waterfalls of memories to rifle through.
Woke up late one Thursday, and I'm seeing stars as
You can find the exact measurements and steps in the link to the original creators page that I put in the description box, but you should just know that this is basically a lot of chopping and then really, really intense folding and scratching down with your nail to make sure that everything moves fluidly.
room full of all of my friends all dancing round and round. And I thought, hello, new shoes, bye-bye, blue.
Here I'm just doing some fine tuning and giving it a final haircut.
I said, hey, I put some new shoes on and everybody's smiling. It's so inviting. No short on money, but long on time. Slowly strolling in the sweet sunshine, and I'm running late and I don't need the an excuse, 'cause I'm wearing my brand new shoes.
The next idea, much easier to execute. You put anything on a Lazy Susan and then you pop it on your wall so you can spin it around. This heals the inner child who has been burned by museum attendants who get mad at you for scratching the Picasso when all you really wanted to see was what the texture of the paint was. You can use it to emphasize the circularity of an object, as you can see here, or you can use it to get to view art that's meant to be appreciated from multiple angles, such as this Escher-esque puzzle that works both ways around, although I most love to leave it wonky. I think it would be so cool to get a picture of you and your friends at like the monkey bars, and some of you are hanging upside down, some of you are normal, and then you display it like this. Another idea is to devise a crafty system with the people who you live with, whereby the orientation of the art that's mounted on the Lazy Susan sends some sort of message. For example, if you're always at risk of double feeding your dog because she strategically does the rounds, manipulating each household member for her meal separately, a Lazy Susan above her food bowl could signal to other members of the household that she has already eaten her 7 ounces of fresh tilapia for the day.
Take me wandering through these streets where bright lights and angels meet.
Hexaflexagons are magic and everyone must know about them. It's a way of folding a strip of paper into triangles so that you end up with a hexagon shape that looks flat, but it actually contains 6 or like many more distinct faces. This was a graduation present for my husband, and I wanted to capture the most important facets of his time in school. Because this is a hexaflexagon, which means it has 6 faces and 6 sides, plus each face is made up of these 6 triangles. That means that I get 36 photos that I get to pack into this lithe hexagonal body. I learned about hexaflexagons from the legendary YouTuber Vihard, and tragically I can't find her videos anywhere anymore. But I did find a re-upload, I think, of her best work, which is where she makes a hexaflexagon out of quesadilla materials. If you want to go really galaxy brain, flexagon.net has a bunch of information on the many configurations of flexagons you can make, along with templates to cut them out and make them yourself, and explanations of the different sequences you'll get into as you're flexing through each of the types of flexagons. How there are certain bifurcation points at which you either remain in the loop you're in or you unlock new faces. And the creator of flexagon.net actually released a book last year. So as you can see, you can really get into it. I think a flexagon works really well as a super low budget gift that will really have high impact because, you know, you're doing the work of consolidating all these memories for people, but you're also giving them the gift of the knowledge of flexagons. I think it works really well to document any time in your life where there are distinct phases. You could have a tetra hexaflexagon for 4 years of high school or undergrad, or like a vacation maybe where you had a bunch of different phases, you visited different cities. If you're having an Indian wedding, for example, you could have one face for each function. So like one for the haldi, one for the sangeet, one for the wedding, one for the reception. Oh, and another idea could be to figure out the loops through which the faces will go, because you won't like every face won't appear as often, and there'll be one that will appear at the very end after quite a bit of flexing. And so you could hide a surprise at that last face, like a wedding proposal or an announcement that your apartment is finally rent controlled. I once made a hexaflexagon for my mom where I drew a bunch of flowers on each face so that as you flex through each of them and the orientation of the triangles changes, then you get to see the flowers split up and come back together again. We also made 120 hexaflexagons. It's back with a vengeance. For our wedding, with the first face being our wedding venue and then the rest of the 3 faces being the places that we consider home. And then we placed a flexagon at each table setting with no explanation and enjoyed the ensuing confusion. So I want to show you how to make this sturdy version that'll last a long time. A year ago, we moved into this beautiful 70-year-old home. It needed quite a bit of work, and we did all of it with our bare hands. And so I think a hexaflexagon is the perfect way to commemorate that. So each face is showing the transformation of each of the rooms.
Hey, I put some new shoes on and suddenly everything is right. I said, hey, I put some new shoes on and everybody's smiling. It's so inviting. No short on money, but long on time.
In Photoshop, Photoshop, I went face by face, which is to say room by room, using clipping masks to arrange each of the photos in the order that I wanted. Then I was able to use the generative fill feature to fill in any gaps that didn't fit perfectly because it was a weird triangular shape. That way all the windows and things were the correct size and shape.
So invited on, short on money, but long on time. Slowly strolling in the sweet sunshine, and I'm running late and I don't need an excuse, 'cause I'm wearing my brand new shoes.
Then once I had them printed out, I chopped them up. And I also printed out this template from flexagon.net for a hexaflexagon, followed the instructions to glue it all together. And this is what I use to guide the arrangement of my triangles that I printed out. So each of these faces has a color and then a letter, B, D, C, you can see, and then each of the corners are marked alpha, beta, theta. So in my mind, I have assigned each room or each face of the hexaflexagon a letter.
You know you got me losing all my cool, 'cause I'm burning up on you. In control of what I do, and I love the way you move.
So that's one side done. Now I flipped it over. As I'm arranging it along here, I'm trying to mirror exactly what I'm seeing on the template. So once this is done, I have this double-sided strip of triangles of pictures that are mapping exactly to the template, where the rooms map to the letters and then the orientation of the triangles map to the alpha, beta, theta position on the template. I tape it down on the front and the back. That way I don't have any sticky sides exposed. And the discovery of how this tape can be used for the joints is my real claim to fame here, because it looks really cool. Looks like the triangles are kind of just suspended, but also the joint is completely indestructible. You can just flex it endlessly. It's never going to crack and tear the way that paper eventually would. As I'm assembling, I'm following the instructions which say to first, for example, fold the C faces together and then fold all the E faces together. And once it's mostly done, there's just one last step to glue down these two flaps and voila! The next idea is to make a cross-stitched version of the photo that you love. For this one, you need to have a lot of patience, commitment to the final product, and a lot of free time, or of course, just have your priorities be totally skewed.
Got me losing on my cool. Yeah, you like the way I move. In control of what I do. Yeah, my love makes you brand new.
I start off in Photoshop with Maeve and her tongue, and I use this website called Pixel Stitch that's super useful because you can just give it the exact colors that you have already lying around, and it generates this pixelated version of a picture for you. You can play around with the settings and have as much granularity as you like. I go back into Photoshop to emphasize her sclera and her tongue so that it'll pop more in the picture. And after much toggling, as you see with all the settings, more emphasis of the sclera. These are the exact settings that I land on, and I'm able to export it to an Excel sheet. Another idea that really does feel like magic is lenticular art. A lot of us probably recognize these cards from childhood that usually would come with like cereal boxes or toys. But then I just stopped giving it any thought because I didn't encounter one up until about a year ago when I came across this crazy video online. This is another case of people doing Olympic level crafting, and I became obsessed with figuring out how this man managed to achieve this look. I still haven't figured it out. This is an area of active study. Even if this was a video, it would be absolutely mesmerizing, but the fact that it's just flat, like this is just one piece of paper that's printed strategically and has a rigid sheet of plastic placed over it so that it refracts light in specific ways. The fact that it's that makes it so much cooler. I'm going to walk through all the steps to create this lenticular print, starting with using software to interlace these two images to create this file, and then calibrating my printer to the exact specifications of these lenticular sheets that I bought. In order to do this calibration, which is called a pitch test, I use this free app called F-Pitch. My printer prints at 300 pixels per inch. The width and height that I'm giving is just in millimeters letter-sized paper, and the sheets that I bought have 50 lines per inch, ostensibly. This pitch test is meant to get the exact number. So it prints out this sheet of paper that has different rows with different densities of lines, all in the realm of 50, and I find the line that gives me the best shift from black to white when I move my head side to side. I found that 49.8 was giving me the best shift, so then I go and print another calibration sheet where I'm now around 49.8, investigating to the 100th of an inch. And from this pretty frustrating process, I find that the number that works best for me is 49.78. Next, I'm going to use another free app called Grape. This is the app that's going to interlace the pictures for me now that I have my exact pitch value, 49.78. Once I feed it the images and their dimensions and the correct pitch, it gives me this file that looks honestly pretty cool on its own. I still wasn't getting a very satisfying flip, and I'm pretty sure it's because my printer was rapidly running out of ink. I don't know how to replace the ink in my printer. It's way above my pay grade, and so I just had to make do. After making sure that the image is perfectly aligned with the ridges, I gently peel off the plastic and then not so gently try to rub out all the air bubbles, yielding this piece, which I title Before and After the Tanning Bed. Next idea is to print on fabric. Use these ink transfer sheets, and these also work well with an inkjet printer, but you print it out and then you iron it on. This t-shirt here, I probably washed like 200 times, and the colors are so vibrant. And this bag here is doing so well too. I mean, there's like, this stain here doesn't have anything to do with the printing. This is because I left a sandwich in here for a few weeks. And then this final idea is something that I'm super excited to start implementing at home. Shrines. I want to start making shrines. I might not know what a shrine is. I'm really inspired by restaurants, like in particular diners, where they'll often have photos up of people who've been to that restaurant looking all happy, sitting in their booth. And it's like such a cozy feeling to be surrounded by pictures of people having a good time in the space where you are. Here's my list of shrines that I'm planning for home. Next summer, when I'm forcing everyone over to swim, I'm gonna take underwater pictures of each person swimming towards me, and then I'm gonna fill this wall with their smiling faces, and then I'm gonna add a frame every time someone comes over. And then I also want to do one over here of people making goofy faces while they're playing foosball. So I love the idea of like nobody feeling safe while playing, knowing that there's is the next mugshot that's gonna end up here behind them. This idea can work in any home. You could have a gallery wall behind your favorite armchair of your favorite people in that armchair, or if you have like a really comfy rug that people love to lie down on or craft on, above that rug you could have like a shrine of the various things that they do. I think what's important is to keep at least one element consistent, whether it's the composition, so like setting up your camera in the exact same spot every time you take a picture, or the color grading of when you're editing it after, or like if you add grain or noise to it to create a vibe, keep that vibe consistent. Let's say you have like a swivel armchair, then you can have everybody just like swivel in it, have it be arms. So then your gallery would just be a bunch of blurry pictures. It would look so artistic, but it would be real. I'm gonna steal that idea from myself. And then as for the positioning of the shrine, I think it would be most cute if there's an angle from which like the shrine's in the background and then the real life focal point is in the foreground. So you can like see both at the same time. I keep returning looking more and more flushed because I'm fighting with the fire. Now I want to share all of my favorite photo taking practices that make me feel like a sneaky undercover artist who's preparing for an exhibition someday. I think that adding a bit of intentionality to the pictures that you take can be such a great way to better notice your surroundings. When you take pictures that feel more artistic, you're so much more likely to want to print them out and enjoy them. I'm always in pursuit of habits that will make my pictures feel very personal, but still like editorial and stylish and interesting. I think all of these ideas work really well as a photo series. So like something that you stick with for a while and you try to build like a whole body of images that fit that theme. Let's start off first with extreme panoramas. I'm going to show you exactly how to take these, but first, let me show you my favorites just to convince you that it's worth doing. So in order to do this, you will use the panorama feature on any smartphone camera to run around in circles, passing the phone back and forth and running into and out of the frame so that you and the people you're with can appear in the photo multiple times. In this photo, we're trying to make it as glitchy as possible. So we're moving the camera while the subject is moving like this. Once the subject has stopped moving, pause your movement as well, but be very, very careful not to move your camera backwards because that'll end the panorama. When I get out of the pool, I approach from the left because the camera is moving to the right, and I grab the phone from him very, very carefully. And then he goes and approaches his spot from the right. I move my camera along with him as he jumps in, like so. And if you look at the top right of the screen, you can see the ridiculous effects this is creating already. Now Jaime is coming from the left to grab the phone from me very carefully. And then I'm running over from the right to get into my next position. And the camera has not yet seen this spot. Now I move while he moves the camera. I run over from the left. He approaches the next spot, which is going to be up on the deck from the right. The camera is recording whatever is in that middle column as it passes it. So if your subject is moving while they're in that middle column, then they're going to appear all blurry and glitchy. But if they're totally still when you approach it, then they will appear static, like you've seen in the other panoramas that I showed you. As the subject gets further away from the camera, it's so much harder to know what it's actually capturing. So I just am excited to see what it turns out as. Jaime is now running over to grab the camera from me for one last shot. Involving a very non-compliant dog. And here's the final image. Here are some from other takes that we took. All equally stupid, but in different ways. And like, yes, of course, you could just take a regular picture and then edit a whole bunch of yourselves back in. But this is so much more fun because it's real. And all the ridiculous artifacts that appear whenever there's a glitch are so perfect. And in the end, what matters is that you've managed to wrangle everyone together for this like shared goal of doing something that is like silly and unnecessary, but still fun and creative, which is, I think, like all anyone ever wants. The results are hilarious even if you don't know what you're doing, but if you do stick at it and become good at it, and you find someone else who also gets it, you can spend hours and hours scouting out locations, trying to figure out how to make your shots more and more impressive, like pack more of you in. And it really is like the ultimate photography exercise in communicating your vision to someone else, especially in the ones where you're both in it, because you're literally passing the camera back and forth and you're both subject and photographer in the same image. Okay, the next is this blending in album. To demonstrate the concept, we're not gonna have to cannonball as much, thankfully. I find it really satisfying when people match their surroundings. So a few years back, I decided to start taking pictures when I noticed it and sorting them into this album. And soon I found myself asking people to like just nudge a bit so I could get their lines to match up perfectly, pausing what I was doing to get a shot. And before I knew it, people were so on board with the concept that like they'd see the twinkle in my eye, giving their outfit and the wall paint a once over, and know it was time to stop, drop, and roll or get into a handstand. And I think that noticing of the blending in is like a muscle that I've been working out for years now, because I see it all the time, even when I don't want to. But I think that means that I'm just like seeing and noticing things much more. And you know, any moment that I'm spending salivating over someone's shoes, socks, and pants, like lining up with the floor, baseboard, and wall color, is a moment that I'm not spending on Twitter, like reading someone's hot take. So I think it's a moment well spent. Number 4 is views from your window. This is a photo series that we created knowing that we were going to gather all of our best sunset pictures from our San Francisco apartment window to print for when we moved away. It helped us notice when a sunset was like regular beautiful versus like truly spectacular beautiful. And like on certain days, I remember like when the weather was particularly weird during the day, I would find myself so excited for sunset because I knew we'd be in for a treat. That's the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching through till the end. I hope that it's, inspired you to do some arts and crafts. I hope that you were as riveted by it as this one is by the chickpea atop my head. And I will see you soon. Bye!